Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Modern Money Smart Pod. I'm your host, Sean McMahon, and today we're going to be talking about AI in the insurance industry. Joining me for that conversation is Peter McMurtrie, a partner at West Monroe. Peter, how you doing today?
Hey, Sean, I'm doing well. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. You've been in this industry quite a long time, and so you got your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And obviously, among many hot topics, AI is one of them, at least for the past couple of years, we could say. So let's start at the top. Let's look at things broadly. What are some of the latest trends and how insurers are leveraging AI?
Yeah, Sean, it's a great question. And you said, I've been in the industry for a long time. I went from being a young upstart in the industry to being the sort of the old veteran. As it relates to AI has been in the industry longer than I have. We've been using AI for almost 50 years in insurance around sort of modeling our pricing, helping work, with claim flow. So really, when we think about AI and what's really changing, I think the newness is really around agentic AI and the power of that. And as I said, the insurance industry was an early adopter in AI, and it's continued to evolve throughout. I think what's exciting is the trends are really what existed before continues to exist, only faster. And then you're really seeing sort of new opportunities to help transform the industry. And so what I mean by that is, like, where there's already automation or transactional capabilities in place, AI is really helping improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the models and the capabilities that were there before. And then where you really have a lot of power coming in is around workflow orchestration and sort of interconnecting sort of the AI models and capabilities into the workflow of the underwriter or the producer. And it's really this co-pilot sort of solutioning that is really creating a lot of energy and excitement of sort of the art of the possible of what's to come.
Yeah, I like that, the art of the possible. And you mentioned how it's actually in some way, shape, or form, AI has been in the industry for quite a while. Obviously, recent years, it's really just taken off, and it seems like endless possibilities. And you outlined some of them right there, with underwriters or producers. What are some of the hurdles right now amid all this buzz?
Yeah. And like all things, everything is easy and everything that is easy is difficult. And, it's that holds true with AI. And so the capability of the models and the things that can be done, the possibilities are infinite. But you're back to this idea of what needs to exist for the enablement of AI to exist within organizations. And I kind of think about this as these building blocks that have to be in place. Part of that is organizations have to have defined sort of the guardrails around how they want to use AI. And I think this is like around sort of the, what are the ethical uses of it? How are they defining that? What's the governance around data security and things of that nature that they want to have? And they need to have those clear policies in place. They also need to have sort of a strong data environment, both structured and unstructured, because your AI is being trained off of your data, and sort of the availability of it, the granularity of it, that all matters as well. Then you have to think about the environment you're deploying your AI into, and both in terms of the technology platform, and are you sitting on a legacy tech stack, or are you on a modern tech platform that can really leverage automation? And then it's also the standardization of your workflows and your processes. It's always this, don't automate a bad process. Well, AI makes that even more challenging, in particular, when you're leveraging AI to work alongside of your underwriters or your producers or whatnot. If they're working in different workflows and environments, you're having to create custom solutions to align up with how everybody's doing things. And the more variability you have, the more challenging that is. And then the last piece is the readiness for it. And this is back to, because AI is interacting more and more directly with your workforce, having your workforce ready for adoption, thinking about what does the future of work look like? What are the skills and capabilities that your workforce needs to leverage and adopt AI effectively? And that really has to be an intentionality of how that's going to work. So again, a lot of those building blocks that have to be in place so that you can take advantage of, sort of the exciting things that are available, but you got to do the work.
Yeah, so I love how you outlined all those things, and but that last one, workforce. I want to ask you a little bit about that because I've recorded some other shows with some experts from other areas, and there's a lot of talk about employees, like how comfortable are they, not just using what they're kind of quote quote instructed to use, but also toying around with the capabilities and expanding the capabilities. So what are you hearing from that? Like how are companies out there assessing their employees comfort level with AI, and also as a group, if you've got half the people are comfortable, half not, how are they kind of leveling everybody up and increasing the IQ of the entire organization when it comes to AI?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's really, like, I think, two broad things there that need to be addressed. I think one is, um, this idea of future ready workforce, and um, exposing your workforce to the ability to interact with AI and understand how the different models can create value in the work they're doing, sort of more broadly. And part of that is you want your workforce continuing to think about and imagine, new ways to leverage the models and resources that are available. Now, to do that, it requires, again, that safe environment. And what I mean by that is that structured environment where they can operate, say, with an internal chat GPT solution or something along those lines that allows them to experiment, learn, grow, get comfortable with that. Um, and that's that really just, again, creating more of an AI native organization. The other part of this, though, is in the work that they're doing, and ensuring that they're using the tools and solutions in the way they're intended to be. And what I mean by that is there are some solutions that, sort of being deployed where it really is intended to do the full job in place of having a human sort of take care of that task. And in that instance, we want to make sure we're letting the models and the tools work the way they're designed. There are other tools that are intended to be decision support. It's bringing relevant information forward to you. It's giving you context. It might be a client like this typically needs this type of coverage at this limit range. That's not intended to be a prescription of write it this way, but it's intended to say, take that in consideration and then add your brain and your perspective to it to make those decisions. Same thing on the underwriting side or even on the claim handling side. And so it's important, again, from a workforce readiness, that we're helping our teams understand the intended use of the tool and how they're supposed to interact to it. And that's really, I think, then it's their leaders observing, monitoring, and coaching to ensure that there is that appropriate give and take. The risk is, if I fully ignore the tool and just keep doing what I was always doing, that's not a good outcome. If I just follow what the tool says and don't apply my own knowledge and experience, that's not a good outcome. And it is that dynamic of leveraging the resources, helping it augment and improve the decision quality that I make. And if you're doing it in that way, the models will evolve and get smarter as well along the way.
Yeah, and I think everyone still likes to hear about the human still being involved in some way, shape, or form, and kind of
Yeah.
guiding it. Um, so, I mean, I know you talk to a lot of folks in the industry, and I want to kind of speak a little bit about who's kind of kicking the tires on new capabilities for AI. Um, have you heard of any unique, or something that might have even surprised you, that is a way that an organization is using AI that is either flying under the radar now, or when you look at it, you're like, oh wow, in a year, 18 months from now, everyone's going to be doing it that way?
I wouldn't, in this stage, I mean, there's not much flying under the radar. I think, if anything, there's a fair amount of organizations that are doing a lot of AI theater. And what I mean by that is they're talking about what they're doing, but it may be in a sort of very controlled, isolated environment. There are really not a lot of players in the insurance space today that are truly fully leveraging AI. Where I think about the opportunities, and so not as much under the radar, but just under realized yet, is in the complex claim handling, the complex underwriting, complex selling from a producer perspective. And it is that, as I said, that AI co-pilot of partnering and leveraging large sets of unstructured data and patterns around what we've done with these types of accounts or these types of claims in the past, and bringing that forward in a just-in-time knowledge approach to allow that decision maker to have the right context in the moment, not having to go search for it, swivel chair, if you will, into other areas to find it, but have it served up in a way that provides the broader context as well, that allows them to make better quality decisions faster than they ever have before. And I see that as sort of like under the radar, in the sense that that's like the highest value use cases. If you can improve the decision velocity and decision quality of your highest paid and your most impactful associates.
Okay, now I want to just shift gears a little bit and talk about governance, right? So, obviously in the last few years, there's been all this buzz about AI, and I actually I like your phrase from a few moments ago, AI theater.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But how has governance evolved to keep up with the rapid pace of adoption?
Well, it's a nice Freudian slip because you said government, I think. And in all seriousness, there is, from a regulatory perspective, that's where it hasn't kept up. But I fully expect that we are going to see an increase in regulatory guidance and control around how carriers are using AI. That hasn't come yet, but I absolutely guarantee you we will see more of that emerging in the coming, certainly in the coming months. And by year end, I would expect to see NAIC and others weighing in that perspective. I think internally for organizations, that is where it's been a guardrail and a little bit of an impediment or a governor, depending on how optimistic or pessimistic you want to be, around keeping organizations from moving too fast, because there is the concern around disparate treatment, how we're using AI solutions and the types of decisioning that may be leading to. I think there's also the data security concerns related to sort of exposing data to the models, or the potential for a model unintentionally exposing data into the environment. And with sort of the rash of cyber attacks in the insurance industry that we had last year, was a lot of the data exfiltration that created caution as well. So I'd say right now it's a bit of, organizations are realizing their governance controls are not able to move as fast as sort of as fast as what the models could potentially enable right now. So it's creating a little bit of that governor or a slowdown, but they're certainly going to need to speed up. But the regulators are going to bring more sort of controls and perspective that carriers and others are going to have to respond to. So it's going to be a challenge state here for the next, certainly 18 months. That's going to create a little bit of caution in terms of what people decide to do.
So in terms of that caution, how does that impact, not just the governance piece, but like overall the value of AI? How are people feeling about the ROI right now?
Yeah, I'd say, most you'll hear a lot of the ROI is low right now. However, the ROI is low where there's not a clear business case that's driving the decision of how the organization's going to use AI. So there's not a clear business problem that led to the adoption. It's low where there's not good underlying data quality. It's low where there's not well-defined, consistent workflows that the solutions are being deployed into. It's low where organizations haven't been intentional around the change management and the people readiness components of it. When those things have been addressed, the return is very, very high. It's like 13 multiples of what it is on average. And I think that's the distinction of, back to, if your building blocks are in place and you've been intentional and you're solving the appropriate problems for your business. It's not about running out and say, I've done something with AI or I have an AI strategy. It's about, I've got a business strategy. I'm solving tangible business problems, and AI is a tool that's fitting into the solution. When done right, high ROI. When not done right, that's what you're seeing is the lack of real benefit realization.
Yeah, it sounds like my next question I had ready for you was about what differentiates firms that are really at the forefront of AI and some of the laggards. And
Yeah.
sounds like you kind of partially already answered that question in terms of
Yeah. I mean,
folks
our
that are.
industry is we're made up of the haves and the have-nots, in particular from a carrier perspective. When you look at the top quartile performing P&C carriers, the gap from top quartile to bottom quartile is the broadest of arguably any industry out there. And those top quartile carriers that made sort of disciplined investments in their technology, disciplined investments in their data over time. They have structure and rigor in terms of their operations. They know what problems they're trying to solve, and they're consistent about their approach. Those are the organizations that you're seeing making meaningful progress with the adoption of AI, because they're very targeted with the problems they're solving and how they're using it. And that discipline is rewarding them. And then you have a whole bunch of folks looking for a moonshot, or a CEO that wants to be able to tell his board how they're using AI or be able to talk about it at a cocktail party. And those are typically in your laggard group.
All righty. Well, you've kind of already walked us through a lot of the key components of a successful AI strategy. But I'm going to ask you now to just sum it up in kind of one or 2 points. If you're giving advice to firms that are, let's just say, at the midpoint of the adoption process, right? They've got some good ideas, haven't gone all in yet, but they're not completely dragging behind. What are 1 or 2 pieces of advice you'd give them?
Solve meaningful problems. That's number one. Find the right use cases, because that's the value is going to be there if you're solving the right problems. And the second is all around your people. And if you've got the right problems and you've got your people aligned with how you want to solve it, the rest is going to happen. The models, the solutions are phenomenal, but it is the environment that you're operating in, the problems you're solving, that's where the breakdown occurs. And so focus on getting those 2 things internally right. And then, whether it's the leading model or one from a year ago, it's gonna work wonders for your organization. But it is about getting those 2 things right first.
Well, that sounds like some pretty clear and concise advice.
Yeah.
So, Peter, listen, I really appreciate you sharing all your insights with us today. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, Sean, I appreciate it. And this was great. Thanks a lot.
Well, that wraps up our show for today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Modern Money Smart Pod is a production of Smart Brief, a future company.